and guests. Please welcome Joshua Daly as he presents his second speech, titled Stones. In this reflective talk, Joshua explores the themes of judgment and mercy, urging us to contemplate the intricate dynamics at play in our interactions with others. Let us lend our attentive ears and open minds as Joshua shares his insights on navigating the delicate balance between judgment and mercy in our daily lives. Ladies and gentlemen, Joshua Daly.
Yeah. When I was a kid, there were tough times and there were good times. This is a story about a tough time, but in retrospect, it became one of the best lessons that came to me many years after while reflecting. I was a young boy in second or third grade in upstate New York. My mom and I were living with my Aunt Mary until we found a place of our own, and it was around September because school had just started. My mom worked nights 90 minutes away, so I only spent about 1 to 2 hours a day with her during the week. I had made some friends on the street my aunt lived on named David and Josh. They were both around my age, and we'd play outside all day. We'd play after school until the streetlights came on. We'd have stick battles, lightsaber battles, and when it was raining, we'd MacGyver Lego blocks together. When the cool autumn air was in full flux, we'd throw ourselves into the leaves. I don't know how this kept us busy for hours, but that's being a kid for you. At some point around this time, my aunt had a series of catastrophic strokes, which would eventually lead to her demise around 10 years later. My Aunt Mary had a big heart, and she would help anyone she could. My aunt even drove a gentleman to take his nursing exams about an hour and a half away, which I did not find out about until her funeral, when he said he doesn't know if he would be a nurse without her. My aunt was no saint, however. That's not the purpose of this story. She would favor her son over me, often handing me unkind words and punishments whenever there was conflict. I was the black sheep in this situation, figuratively and also in reality, as my aunt was on my mom's Irish side. At some point during this time in my life, I noticed a change between my friends and I. They stopped knocking on the door and asking for me. Sometimes I'd look out the window and see them playing. I would go out and join them, but they treated me differently. We would play for a bit, but they would go home way before the streetlights would come on. Come summertime, my friend David got a pool, and I was never invited to swim in it. This was very upsetting to me, as I really loved to swim. After months of frustration and hurt, I confronted my friend David and asked why they didn't let me swim with them. He told me they don't swim with people on welfare. My friendship with David was over after this. However, I wasn't on welfare. My friendship with Josh was hurt a little bit in the beginning, but eventually strengthened and we became great friends. I surmise Josh's parents came aware of this conflict and told him to not be judgmental like David was. Let's jump back into real time now. The complete story came to me in pieces, as I'm not one to discuss hurtful memories. My mom and I were not on welfare, but my aunt was receiving some sort of assistance. I'm not sure if it was food, Medicaid, or something else. Another piece of the story was my aunt had signed a mortgage for her other sister to have a house, which she was unable to qualify for. My other aunt paid the monthly bill, and with the strokes that my aunt had, she didn't remember to put this down in her assistance application. I did not know my Aunt Mary got arrested for fraud and was in the front page of the newspaper, but everyone in the town did. It really was an unfair situation which would eventually be dismissed. Also years later, David's mom would get arrested for stealing money from the vet clinic she worked for. I gather the pool, along with some of the other home improvements they acquired during this time, were from ill-gotten gains, possibly at the same time they were drawing judgment on my aunt's circumstance. The revelation I spoke of in my intro was that this was my story of stones, as I like to call it. This was the story that I experienced that reminded me of the story of Jesus and the adulterous woman. This is a story that has value for both Christians and non-Christians. Here's a brief summary. A woman is brought before Jesus by religious leaders who accuse her of committing adultery. They ask her if she should be stoned as prescribed by Jewish law. Jesus was viewed as a bit of a heretic by these people, so they were always trying to put him on the spot and make him look bad. Instead of answering directly, Jesus challenges them, saying, "Let him who is without sin be the first one to throw a stone at her." One by one, the accusers leave, realizing their own imperfections. Jesus then forgives the woman and urges her to sin no more. A couple thoughts I have about this story. We have all done things we're not proud of, so what value is it to pass judgment onto strangers who have done us no harm? And then more importantly, in the context of the Christian faith, Jesus was without sin and had every right to throw a stone, but didn't. Josh's family was honest. His dad worked for the FBI, and Josh was initially distant due to his friendship with David. But he had every right to judge me. His parents weren't stealing, but he didn't. What would I have thought of my friendship with Josh had he stopped being friends with me also during that time? And in the story of Jesus and the adulterous woman, what would we have drawn from that had at the end of that situation, Jesus threw a stone at the woman and hit her in the head? As I end this speech, I challenge you to think of either stories I shared with you when you're tempted to throw a stone. Whether our stones be words, Facebook messages, or other forms of condemnation, let's let the perfect person throw the first stone. Thank you.